The Sorrow of Enlightenment. So this was going to be my take on red pill rage and the rage that people feel, individuals feel whenever they stumble upon knowledge and they accept that knowledge as truth, and that truth shows them the errors of their ways in the past, and the pain that this causes an individual can there's a lot of different directions it can go. In the man gets woman arena, in the dating arena, um, men are raised by their mothers, mostly, at least in the West, and they're raised. If their fathers are in a picture, they're very feminine. They're not very masculine, and so they don't really get the real gist of how to interact with women. A lot of men until their mid 20s or late 30s and 40s. Um, this, you know, we call this, or this is called red pill rage, but this is something that causes a lot of pain and anger and sorrow. And oftentimes the women mistake this for misogyny. I think this is really what they're mistaking for misogyny, is this the men who are crying out for help and they're just angry. Um, and one thing I would say is that they're not angry at women; they're angry at themselves for not understanding uh, the true nature of women, and it's often the true nature of women is often hidden from men, because it doesn't really work in women's best interests, and it doesn't work in the interests of our society and how it runs, which our society, or at least our economy, runs off of women. Women control at least 80% of the spending in the entire country. And so every commercial, every movie, every, infotainment, entertainment we see is driven it's based off of what they like, because that's where the money flows. Or that's where the money starts and moves from. Um, so the men end up learning that certain behaviors and certain ways of being is extremely unattractive to women. They learn about the covert nature of women and the aspects of women that aren't talked about, the taboo aspects, the taboo truths about women that women don't like to hear about themselves as well. Like, for example, the idea that women are very hybristophilic, and they have hybristophilic tendencies. They like criminals, they like people with psychopathic profiles or sociopaths and things like that. They're attracted to men. They are more attracted to men with dark triad traits. And this sorrow overcomes many men because they don't have a lot of these traits, and they're not, and their whole lives they were thinking that the women were just simply choosing someone else, just, fairly. But, you know, um, the next part of this is that in politics and even in the workforce, the sorrow of enlightenment in the workforce, um, women I think, are starting to learn that working is not all it's cracked up to be. In the 60s and through the 70s, they were pushed to go into the workforce, thinking that it was this magical thing that their husbands were holding back from them, and they were thinking that they were finally going to be free by by joining a corporation, um, which is interesting because what they really learned is that they were just as miserable in the corporate world. Uh, really, they were just joining in the misery of their husbands, which they kind of realized, wow, this is awful. And the guys are kind of like thinking, well, yeah, it's it's a soul sucking 9 to 5. So the malaise, I think, from the enlightenment of the people who were tricked to go into the workforce and to work and to make more money for people that they're not even related to. I think that's kind of, we're coming full circle to that. But then you also have the malaise of the people in politics, um, or the people who used to believe in politics, but now they kind of see that it's a game, and they've done their research and they've delved deeper and deeper into the darker aspects of politics and the connection between politics and the economy and everything else. And the further they went down that rabbit hole, the greater their sorrows grew. And I think the last, most pertinent aspect of the sorrow of the Enlightenment is when you just realize that most people, uh, as ideal as some people would like to be, most people in this world, you can't really count on them, and you can't really. It, it's good to hold out hope, but you just learn that most people are worthless and they're very selfish, and there's not really a lot there, in terms of like depth. There's not really a lot of honor anymore. There's not really a lot of respect, and all of our old ways and old traditions are kind of dying out. And when you see where it's going, then I think that's where the sorrow comes. But it only comes to those who are aware. The ones who are blissfully in the particular system or matrix, if you want to call it that, they don't even notice. But that's what makes it worse. The sorrow of the enlightened comes from not even having a lot of people to discuss these things with, because you're pretty much in the minority with what you're seeing. And even if there are people, they're not saying anything. So you feel alone in the knowledge and what you're learning about human nature and female nature and the nature of politics and the nature of the world and the pain and suffering of others that goes unnoticed and things like that. You can see all the games, you can see the the schemes that are going on. You can see the schemes that people play, but you don't call them out. You don't call them out on it. You just simply see it and watch it, and you just grow sadder and sadder. And you're like, wow. Yeah, the sorrow of the Enlightenment.